how do you make Americans understand the real cost of and pay a realistic price for the transportation, for the infrastructure they're using? You're very familiar, far more than I am, with all the things that have been suggested, that you charge people for the number of miles their cars actually drive by haunting them with a GPS thing. You actually impose congestion tolls or congestion fees, as Mayor Bloomberg tried to do but failed to do in Manhattan, and so on. How do you get the real cost into the minds of people who are driving the cars and taking the trains and whatever?
Well, there's actually some interesting examples in some of the states. I think there's one in Kansas where there's actually an online system and a debate where you can put your own policy together and you see the implications. So there are trade-offs. You can't have everything, and you can't just say, well, the government should do it. So getting a public awareness of those trade-offs and what it costs is absolutely critical. I actually think one of the things that's actually going to take hold is the environmental costs of the way we run our transportation systems. We are destroying the planet that we live in. Not only are we mortgaging our future for our children, but we're also destroying the planet. And it is all about the kind of transportation systems and our communities and the kind of investments that we make. And I think when people get that we've got to transform this. This is abstract what the principle of how we finance it would be. But basically getting a more accurate user pay that is not just for the concrete, but the management of the infrastructure, the improvement of the performance of the infrastructure, and the economic and environmental indirect costs that people impose on others when they get in their car or ride their bike to work.
Governor Schwarzenegger, do you have ideas on this? How do you meet the problem of paying for all this and paying for what people are actually using in terms of the wider social cost of what they're using?
Well, I think that we have had a history where there was a certain amount of percentage of our budget was put aside for infrastructure. And the states have done that, the federal government has done it, and these were the times when under Eisenhower, under Roosevelt, we built huge amount of infrastructure. And, the people are still paying their taxes, so why are we all of a sudden wanting to charge them extra for infrastructure? I mean, I think they're supposed to be part of that, what they're paying on taxes. But I think that if we don't have that money, I think that the federal government and the state should open it up to public-private partnerships. Now, Labor happens to be in many states very much against that idea of having public-private partnerships because, especially the state employees, the engineers, they want to do it themselves and have a lock on that and a monopoly. We have now finally gotten through that during our budget negotiations where now this will be open to bidding, and that brings the prices down and the public sector can participate and also can finance and invest in it. So I think that's the way to go because you can't just all do it through public funding.
In every state.